Welcome to the Accidental Experts podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Hamilton. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a child and family therapist. I have been in practice for over 15 years, and I'm also a mom of 4. So I know the challenges both professionally and personally. I'm so glad that you're here today to grow your parenting toolbox. Please come as you are and be ready to learn. My goal is to make you the accidental expert so that you can raise healthy humans. Hi, guys. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here today. I hope you're enjoying our episodes. Today, we're going to talk to somebody I'm super excited about. Her name is Natalie Upp, and she is the owner of Fired Up Fitness. She's also a wife and mom of 2 teenage daughters, and she is also a personal trainer and nutrition coach. And she specializes in helping women from their premenopausal to postmenopausal years in delivering proven results to weight loss, sleep improvement, increased energy, and better moods with healthier blood work. This is so important. And so she's going to talk to us today about how to do self-care because she gets it that it's so important. So she's going to share some of her story with us as to what led her down this path of getting healthy and also give us some tips and tricks to see how we can incorporate little pieces of self-care into our lives. With that, let's get to Natalie.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So let's start with talking about why parental self-care matters. Why does it matter if we take care of ourselves?
Well, basically, if we don't take care of ourselves, and we're taking care of the kids. So if we don't take care of ourselves, essentially the kids aren't being taken care of, right? I mean, it's like, especially moms, no, dissing the dads here, because there's lots of great dads, but moms, typically run the household for most families. And I think if they're not taking care of themselves, then a lot of things can fall through the cracks.
Yeah. Well, we don't have energy. If we're not taking care of ourselves, we don't have energy to do the stuff that being a parent
Right.
demands.
Right.
It is
Well,
probably the hardest job.
right. Oh, definitely. And when I learned this kind of the hard way, I was in a job that I was working hours, literally, I was fundraising and event planning. So I was working during that event time in like 3 o'clock in the morning was a normal time to be working through. So I work from home, and kind of my breaking point was I got a call from my kids' school at the time in elementary school that they were still there at 6:15. I forgot to pick them up from aftercare. And I was at the liquor store of all places getting liquor for this big event and not a clue in the world. Like I did not have my priorities set on myself. And so that trickled into not caring for my kids. And it was a huge wake up call. I knew that I was overstressed and I was living on Diet Cokes and sugar and no sleep. And it was a recipe for disaster, honestly. And that was when I decided I got to change things. So that was my first thing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we can get so far down the road and we're just
yeah.
surviving, right? And I think we have this opportunity with self-care to thrive, which I think is so important. But then also our kids are watching what we're doing.
Yep.
So if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we're raising a generation of people who are not taking care of themselves. And then it just can keep going unless somebody says enough. So hopefully with our conversation today, parents will say enough, right? We want to take care of ourselves. So what obstacles do you think parents face when trying to prioritize their well-being?
Well, I would say the biggest one for sure is time, lack of time. But I would say also, I have clients coming to me that are stressed. They feel overwhelmed. They're in that surviving versus thriving mode. They're tired. These poor parents, they're stressed and tired and they don't have any time. And they're like, but it's kind of this overwhelming feeling. They just don't know where to start because a lot of people are stuck in that all or nothing thinking. And so that's just like, if I can't do everything, like they're just, they don't do anything. So that's what I see.
Kind of paralyzed.
Yes, absolutely. Paralyzed for sure. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we feel like if we do one thing, it's just not enough. Right? And we don't realize the benefit that even just one change could make to taking care of ourselves. And then it has a trickle down effect in a really positive way where you're like, oh, I feel better. Like I've really cut down on my caffeine, or I've really cut down on sugar, or I've been focusing on whole foods, like things that are naturally growing or created in the environment. Then it's that makes me feel better. Then you're more motivated to do the other things, but it's hard imagining just taking that first step.
It
I know
is.
that for myself too is like, okay, I got to do this thing, but it's like seems like a mountain. So it's good to have a village of people to help you climb the mountain.
That's right.
So can you share with us a strategy for how parents can set themselves up for success when they don't feel like they have extra time in their day?
So, a couple of things. I like to talk about a healthy lifestyle dial. So if you think about you're trying to build a healthy lifestyle, you have a dial, and maybe that dial goes from 1 to 10, but it doesn't have a 0 on it. You always want your dial turned on and never in the off position, because, a lot of people, including myself, like, you can't be perfect all the time and doing all the things and like, doing all your workouts, eating perfectly and all that. I mean, that's not life. I mean, you're going to have busy weeks and so forth. So if you think of your healthy lifestyle as a dial and always keep it turned on, it helps you get out of that all or nothing mindset. So instead of all or nothing, you're just doing something. And like you were saying, I mean, maybe it's like you're just doing one action, like you're drinking your water. You're not getting protein in, you're not getting any veggies, but you're drinking enough water that your body needs a day. You are doing something. And I mean, you should really, it sounds silly, but you should be proud of doing that. Like, at least keep that dial turned on. So I talk about, when you're on and you're not super busy and all the things, maybe you are doing all that stuff and your dials turn it at 10, but when it is lower, like at that 1 or 2, this is where you want to get into your bare minimums. I call them a bare minimum rule. I always have clients at the very beginning when they're trying to make this lifestyle change, think of 2 bare minimum rules, one for exercise and movement, and then one for nutrition or your stress or sleep or something but the bare minimum rules, you're not giving that up no matter how busy or what craziness, life throws you. So like for me, I know that a bare minimum rule is my water. Like one of them is my water. So no matter what, like I will always drink in all of my water that I needed to get in. On my movement, I always do, like my bare minimum is honestly not getting in so many workouts a week. It's just getting at least 3 walks in a week. So, and that can be anything. Like actually in my calendar, I have scheduled at least 15 minutes of walking or a workout. And I have that scheduled in so many days a week. So it's not this like, oh, if I didn't get a workout in, then there goes the whole week. It's all I need to do is 15 minutes, and I can break that up into 5-minute increments if I want, but that's for me, like that's my bare minimum. But if you have those set in place where you're like, oh, and the bare minimums need to be like, oh, I could totally do that. Like easy peasy. Like I can definitely get that done no matter how busy I am. That's what you have to plan. But if you could just have 2 of those, you're keeping that dial turned on. You're not completely off track. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's a great idea to have something that's like, okay, this is my bottom place.
yes.
And I'm going to be able to do this to take care of myself. Cause it's really not, I mean, workouts are great, but like as somebody who's a mental health professional, I view exercise as a mental health improvement strategy, right? Like it is something that creates all these really awesome hormones in us that really gives us the opportunity to kind of like handle stress better, to feel good about ourselves. And so it's not just about like building muscle or being strong or having ripped abs, which I don't have. And I don't think I have a goal for that.
Hey, I don't either. So
good. We got something in common here.
Yeah.
But I think it's like we sometimes have maybe too big of a goal with that, but it's just like movement, right? And it feels good. Like I love being outside.
Feel good. Yes, that should be the focus. Feeling good, not looking good or being a certain weight or a certain size. Just focus on feeling good.
Yeah, I think that's great advice because sometimes we get so stuck in what we have these like other goals of like how we're going to fit into these pants or whatever. And it's like, I just want to feel good. And I think when I feel good, I'm a better parent. And that's why self-care is so important. Okay. So you mentioned low energy being another barrier to personal self-care, whether you've got babies and not sleeping through the night or teens that are out late at night. I don't have those yet, but you do.
You do. I do.
Parenting can really affect our sleep. So how do we prioritize our sleep habits as a parent?
Well, first of all, how important from when your kids are babies and newborns, how important, is your focus on sleep for them, right? Like you're like, all I want is, you'll do anything to get them to sleep through the night. So you know how important sleep is. Well, it is just as important for you. And especially if you are, and I'm speaking to, it goes for men too, but especially those women and moms that are over 35. The hormones will start wreaking havoc on your sleep without you even doing anything. So if you're over 35, like putting a sleep ritual, just like you did for your kids, like your whole life, or their whole life, you have to do that. It is so essential. And so for me, I try to teach clients to our circadian rhythm. You kind of have to get down to some of these basics again. It's like, okay, our ancestors and everybody like started, they didn't have alarm clocks or phones to wake them up or anything. It was like all done by sunlight. So it's kind of getting back to those roots. So I always recommend you really should look for the sunlight in the morning to try to like reset that circadian rhythm. I'm not talking about like perfectly sunny day, everything. I'm talking about sunlight, like outside. But for me, when I'm getting my coffee in the morning, I drink my first cup, or if it's not ready, I'll go and stand by the door while I let my dog out. And I'm just trying to, you have to be intentional about these, actions. But it just is a way, and I kind of take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And it's kind of like, okay, today's going to be a good day, and kind of like reset. So I always like to start that, but then you have to do things both throughout the day. There's definitely, I won't go through all the nutrition and stuff like that definitely affects your sleep, but you also, just like you do for your kids, you need to have a nighttime ritual. And so many parents, like, they're just, they're just trying to zonk into bed, depending what age their kids are or what's going on. But you really have to have that ritual. You have to have the cool room. You have to have the dark room. You need to, I sleep now. I sleep with a night mask or a sleep mask every single night, a satin sleep mask. If I didn't have that, it's just something that helps me turn my day off, turn my mind. And so I'm not, because it's just, you're racing. And again, like when you get into, I work with a lot of, mostly women in that perimenopause to menopause stage. And, it's your mind's racing because your anxiety is increased because your hormones are lowering. So it's kind of this vicious cycle, but you have to take these steps to have a sleep ritual, just like you did for your kids when they were learning how to get better sleep. So, things like magnesium at night can help a lot, magnesium glycinate. But the keeping your room dark, I do deep breathing. One of my favorite deep breathing hacks in bed is a 4-7-8 breathing. Do you ever do that? 4-7-8.
Yeah.
So, you take a deep breath in for 4 counts, hold it for 7. And then when you exhale, that goes for 8 counts. So it's just a good way to, again, like calm your brain, calm your body. One other quick tip on that is kind of like bookending your day. You start it with sunlight. I like to end it with some gratitude. So I'll do, and this is all why I'm laying in bed with my little mask on. So if you can imagine me doing this, but you have to practice at these things, and they're all habits, and some of them are like individual habits. So you're not going to just like, okay, I'm going to do all of these the first night, but if you can just implement one at a time, that will help you get better sleep over time. But I just try to think about my 3 things that I'm grateful for that day. And that kind of ends my day after some deep breathing. and hopefully I'm calm enough to fall asleep. So, and stay asleep for that matter. That's a whole different deal, but that's a whole different deal.
Yes. Well, and I think, like the breathing is important because our brains are made in such a way that when we hold our breath, it actually distracts us from the thoughts and is like, oh, shoot, Bryce isn't breathing. Think about breathing. And then it changes the channel so that we can kind of turn that anxiety off. And the quieter the environment around us is, the more opportunity those thoughts come to mind. I know that like sometimes I'll lay down in bed and I get like a whole grocery list of things, of stuff that I need. And I'm like, so I keep a notepad by my bed. So I write it down because
the brain dump. I call that the brain dump.
I love it. Yes. Because otherwise my brain's alarming me, like being like, don't forget that, whatever. And it's like, and then it just keeps, it's kind of like the snooze, right? Like if you don't write it down, it like just re-alarms you. And then I'm like,
Right.
I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to put this on the grocery list, or like I have to do this
Right.
task tomorrow. And so that creates stress. And so the more that we're helping to support ourselves, like we write down, then our brain's like, hey, we got that. We're going to go back to
Right.
that list.
Yeah.
So I like the breathing, and I teach that to kids too. We do 3-3-4. So breathe in for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, breathe out for 4. So
Oh, that's
I
good.
mean, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean everybody can do it, right? And we can also teach our kids how to take care of
for
themselves,
sure.
right? So these are all skills with this. But I like the idea of gratitude because I think our mindset totally matters.
Yeah. Oh
We
my
have
gosh.
tons
Huge,
of research
huge.
on that piece of like what we're thinking about, even if we've had the hardest day,
Mm-hmm.
we can
Yeah,
still find things to be grateful for, right? Like
absolutely.
I got to bed on time, right?
Right.
Or I ate something for dinner that I loved,
Yeah.
right? Or I got a hug from my kid, right? Like even if it's
All the
really small
things.
things,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, can you elaborate a little bit on some other effective stress reduction techniques that parents can try to fit into their busy schedules?
Sure. Well, I mean, so stress, I'm going to bring in the hormone aspect here. Stress increases our cortisol. And a lot of people don't realize this, but especially as you get older, when your cortisol is increased just even by stress, it also increases your insulin, which is your fat storing hormone. So you are, as you get older, like that 35 and older, you're more prone to hold belly fat, and that is all because of insulin and cortisol. So that stress piece, I mean, to focus on stress is huge. And I like to implement what I call stress breaks. So again, just like you put your kids in timeout when they're little, or some do. Mine would never stay in timeout, but never worked for me. However, the idea of it though, like just having a timeout, just put yourself in a timeout basically. And I call them stress breaks. And you're really just trying to increase the oxytocin, or that love hormone in your brain, to help decrease that cortisol, that stress hormone. So this could be a walk. This could be, I have a great app on my phone. Have you ever heard of Unwind?
No, I
That
don't know. Really good.
So it's a breathing app, but it's you can do like 1 minute, you can do 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I think you can even do longer than that, but it can remind you to do it, once a day or 3 times a day. But you follow the little, it's a visual that you're following, like a sunset and sunrise, as you're breathing, but it's just a reminder. And I'm like, who can't do a deep breathing for 1 minute? I mean,
Huh.
that's like, come on.
Yes.
So that's a reminder. I have another app, that is, oh gosh, what's it called? I can't think of what it's called. Oh, it's called I Am. And
Mhm.
it's all affirmations. So, and
Love that.
I do push notifications and you can do a session that's 1 minute, and you're just repeating. You can choose like what category. So maybe if you're wanting to, focus on family or relationship, or maybe it's parenting, or your business, or whatever it is. There's all sorts of categories, but you're just repeating affirmations. So again, it kind of gets back to that mindset piece. But even, spending some time with your animal, like petting your animal, that's great for increasing oxytocin. Spending time with your kids, and, hugs, and like having that quality time, walking the dog there. I mean, there's all sorts of stress breaks, but even getting like fun things like mani or pedi, or I get monthly massages. I've been doing this for, oh my gosh, probably 5 or 6 years now. Actually probably longer, more like 7 years, I think. And at first I did it because I was having some muscle issues, but then I'm like, nope, this is like, I mean, and I know my body, my shoulders know when I'm due for one, because I can just feel that I'm walking around almost like this. It's just like, but I'm like, you know what? It's not a luxury. It's like, it helps me so much that I've kept it in as part of my lifestyle. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. So something else I do as a parent in the mornings, like when I get out of bed, is I think about like what my intentions are for that day. Like
yeah.
I will say different things like I want to be a present mom. I
Hmm.
want to be calm. I want to be supportive, or whatever it is for
Yep.
that day, of like putting that intention out there. And I think that helps too. And so then I love this idea of ending with gratitude. So like, or maybe it's like reflection, like I did a really
Absolutely.
good job at being present today. And maybe I
Mhm.
sucked at the other two. Like, but
Yeah.
was really present
I
and I
love
was
that.
actually there, right? So to say like I did a really good job at that, to just like feel like I had some success, because I know as a parent sometimes we just feel like we're failing. There's like so many expectations on us and so much pressure that sometimes that's really hard. So we've hit the obstacles of lack of time, low energy, and stress. What other advice do you have to give parents who are in this survival mode that want to get started on more self-care? So they want to thrive. What do you want to offer them, Natalie?
Well, first, you know, I think going back to that mindset piece is super powerful, and not being a little bit easier on yourself. But to do that, to kind of set yourself up so you're not feeling like you're failing if you mess up or whatever, I like to first make sure that all my habits are, or all my actions are turning into habits. And to do that, you have to set up triggers and reminders for yourself to actually make actions into habits for the long term. So for instance, like right now, one of my things, and I just did a post on this because I'm like, this is what I actually do, but I've been having I've been working on some other things. I'm getting all my walks in, but I haven't done a great job of getting all my workouts in. And so instead of thinking, oh, I have to do my workout downstairs in my home gym where all my stuff is, I've put a pair of dumbbells in my bathroom. And so while I'm getting ready at night, if I'm brushing my teeth or whatever, and I know that sounds so dumb, but I'll just pick up the weights and I'll pick one exercise and do like 3 sets of that one exercise. So again, it goes back to just do something. And I'm having the habit of keeping my dial turned on. I'm doing something. I'm working on maintenance. Maybe not, I'm not like, building some big, huge muscles doing like one exercise right there, but at least it's doing something. So, but seeing those dumbbells in my bathroom is the trigger. That's my reminder to, do that habit. Sometimes I'll even do push-ups in between, like even like I do like a face routine with my, sorry, my dog's barking, a face routine with my lotion. And when I'm waiting for each, so I'll put one thing on, and then I have to like let it wait and then do another. And I might do a set of push-ups in between off my bathroom counter. Like literally, like I am just trying to do anything possible. You do not have to have it set up in this perfect, scenario for you to do these healthy actions and turn them into long-term habits. Another thing that I like to do is have a plan B strategy. So if you know that, for instance, some people are like, but I just love sweets, or, I just can't stay out of my kids, fruit snacks or whatever it is. So if you are stuck in something like that and you get into that emotional eating, because stress and overwhelm and even boredom and all this stuff, that gets into emotional eating. And a lot of people just go straight to the kitchen when they're feeling like that, when they're not even hungry. So first, you always have to ask yourself in those kind of situations, like, am I really hungry? Is my stomach growling? When was the last time I ate? Like, should I be hungry right now? Those kind of things. But you want to have a plan B strategy. And that might be putting a Post-it note in your cabinet that would say, like, are you hungry? And it's kind of that reminder. And then if you're not hungry, then you go there, you see that and you're like, oh yeah, I'm not really even hungry. My stomach's not growling or whatever. So then you're going to have a plan B strategy. Okay. Instead, I'm going to go out of the kitchen. I'm going to go for a walk instead, or I'm going to grab one of the kids. We're going to go outside in the backyard and play ball or whatever you're doing. But one of my favorite things is go on a walk and call, I talk to my sisters all the time. And so like call, a friend or your sisters, or listen to a podcast, something that's like motivating, but having that plan B strategy in place before you get stuck into these things really helps with that, not feeling overwhelmed, and really feels like you're more successful.
Yeah. So. Well, and I think we can also talk to our kids about this. Like, as we're taking care of ourselves, we can say like, mommy's going for more walks because it's healthy for me. It helps my heart and it helps me to be a better mommy. Or a dad could be like, I'm, eating more vegetables because that is helping me. Or I need you to go to sleep because I need to go to sleep because that's how I stay healthy. And so that's what I'm working on, this part, because then our kids know that this is not a perfect process. I say to
Right.
my kids all the time, I'm just one mommy. Right. And they know exactly what that means because it's like I have 4 kids and they all are like needing something always
Mhm.
at the same time. And it's like, or
Mhm.
it's like you just sit down to eat yourself and you've gotten everybody. And then somebody's like, oh, and I need this thing.
Uh-huh.
And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm just one mommy. So it's also giving ourselves just
Deep
the
breaths.
yes, yes, the permission to be just one person. We don't
Yeah.
have to be multiple people. We can't.
Right.
Like it is
Right. No,
impossible
you
for us to
can't.
achieve. We are
Yeah.
just one person, and our kids understand that. Even my 2-year-old understands that I'm
Yeah.
just one mommy. And
Right.
so like that means I'm gonna go to the bathroom by myself. Right.
Mhm.
Sometimes that
Mhm.
self-care for me is being like, no one is allowed in this bathroom while I'm eating. Right. It's
Right.
crazy to say, but any parent, especially moms, understands that like there is a
Yes.
privilege about going to the bathroom by yourself because there have been years of
I
my life
used to hide
I could
out.
not.
Oh my gosh, I used to hide out in the bathroom so bad.
So I mean that but those moments are also that break that you talked about is that like taking a break from the things to just like
Yeah.
collect yourself, right? To renew and be ready to go back into wherever you are in life. So this is
Well, and
all
actually on piggybacking on that, like
yeah.
when you do have little kids and you're like, oh, but I can't, like you feel like maybe you can't get away to do a stress break. Do a stress break with them.
Yeah.
It's like time for a stress break, like family
Mhm.
stress break, I mean, and teach them like, because we all need this. And it just gets more imperative. Oh my gosh, it's just essential and crucial to be doing these things as you get older, because once your hormones start going wacky as you get into perimenopause and after, I mean, it is just, I just can't even tell you, because that's when it hit me. And that's when I started learning. I mean, that's why I started learning about all this, and becoming so interested. I mean, I just couldn't even research enough. But when you're going through it, it's tough, and you have to make the changes to feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you say that.
Feel good. That's the focus.
Yeah, one of the things that we do to take a break at our house, and I don't know that I've defined it to my kids as a break, but we'll do dance parties,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Where
that's
it's
right.
like I'm just like, okay, I'm getting frustrated, I'm getting irritated, or I'm tired, right? And I have to like make dinner or whatever. I'm like, turn the music on, turn it up, and we're dancing all around the kitchen and everybody is having a good funny time and
Uh-huh.
everybody's silly. My kids love kung fu fighting and I'm doing like the karate kicks and I'm probably going to injure myself, but they all think it's like the funniest thing ever. And so but it is creating this network of them like thinking this is totally normal, like this is totally
Yeah.
something that everybody does, which we should all do this to take
Yeah.
care of
And you're
ourselves.
sneaking in some movement and exercise like that.
Oh man, I really wasn't trying for that, but that was good. I love it. Well, this
Yep.
has all been so helpful information. Is there anything that you want to end with that you really want parents to just take away from this conversation?
Just, I guess, just kind of recapping that if you don't take care of yourself, your kids aren't going to be taken care of to the fullest, extent. So it's just don't forget about you. Like, I know it's so hard to be like, they come first, and they still come first. Mine still, I do all sorts of things for them still, and they're 19 and 17. But you have to put yourself first, or you're going to end up floundering and things aren't going to go so well.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're on the airplane and they say, put your oxygen mask on first before you
Mhm.
help anybody else,
Yeah.
because if you don't have yours on, you can't help anybody else.
So true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
They say it for
fantastic.
a reason.
Yes, exactly. Because it's true and it's true, right? In
Yeah.
all settings.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for all your time today. This has been incredibly enlightening information.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks for having me.
I don't know about you, but I am ready to implement some of these tools. Just one thing, right? Like the goal is to just add one thing or to have that bottom level of 2 things that you could always make sure that you're doing. And I know that I have some things, and hopefully, this conversation has given you some ideas of things that you can put in place to help you take care of yourself. Because if we aren't taking care of ourselves as parents, as grandparents, as other people who are taking care of kids, then we don't have the energy or the right mindset to be the best versions of ourselves for our kids. And with that, I'll say thank you so much for your time. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe and share our show. Give us suggestions for topics by emailing us at accidentalexperts@gmail.com and like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and check us out on YouTube. Have a fantastic day. Some words from our legal team.
The information presented in this podcast is not intended or implied to be a substitute for appropriate professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. All content, including text, graphics, images, and information contained on or available through this podcast, is for general information purposes only. This podcast makes no representations and assumes no responsibility for the accuracy or information on or available through this podcast, and such information is subject to change without notice. You are encouraged to confirm any information obtained through this program with other sources and review all information regarding any condition or treatment with the appropriate professionals.
What we're saying is, yes, I am a real therapist, but I'm not your therapist.